Now, the reality is this, it has a lot of cons. And the cons are that I don't construct the life that I want on a day-to-day basis because I'm now subject to clients and their needs and their wants and their timetables, right? I'm very much used to when I'm done at 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock at night, I'm done.
The income is the pro. The con is that you have to do the work to do the income. And I think the difference is like when you're building a business that's bigger than that with a different type of model, you're sometimes 2, 3, sometimes 4 degrees removed from income entering your pocket, essentially.
Well, and I think that's something that a lot of people don't really I know I didn't understand it, right? When I started building my enterprise model, I made so much money as a solo agent. It was sick. Like it was disgusting. And that's one of the pros that I wrote down was just like the profitability on the Rainmaker model is huge.
So if you're making that transition, so if there's a listener out there that's like, man, I hate selling real estate. Well, then you're kind of like an enterprise leader stuck in a Rainmaker body type thing. Like you're kind of stuck in this trap. You need to like exit it.
Welcome to the Refuge Podcast. This is your host, Danny Gould, here with Keith Anderson, the #1 real estate team leader in Arizona. And did I say that right? The owner of the #1 real estate team in Arizona. There we go. And Isaac Guzman, just overall like general badass recruiting legend. And we're going to have some fun today with, dude, you're a legend, bro. Come on. Why are you laughing?
By the way, might I just interject and say, I actually agree with the first intro you made and the second intro you made with Keith, because he is the best #1 team leader too, but he's the owner of the #1 team.
Exactly.
So combo.
It works both ways.
Absolutely.
Awesome. So today we're going to be talking about, we're on this series, right, guys, of like different team structures and the pros, the cons, and some of the growing pains, if you will, with each different team model. Today, we're going to talk about the Rainmaker model. And this is something that obviously I have experience with. I ran a Rainmaker style for a few years. Yeah, making it rain, right, baby? And Isaac, you have experience with this as well. I know that you coached many Rainmaker models. And Keith, even though I would imagine, I'm not 100% sure, but I would imagine that at one point you ran a similar model as you were growing your team. Maybe you didn't. I don't know if you did or didn't.
We never did, actually.
Really?
Yeah,
Interesting.
I've coached 3 or 4 different team leaders that were Rainmaker models.
Yeah.
But we actually built our model avoiding it from day one. Like we knew we wanted a large scale team. Well, it's not necessarily smart. Like that's the thing.
I know.
Right? There's pros and cons, with it. But yeah, I know the model well. It was one of the models that we had to decide whether or not to pursue or move forward with. So, yeah.
And one thing I'll add, so Danny, if you recall, I currently run a Rainmaker now.
That's right.
Right. So we were enterprise that parted ways with my business partner. And now I'm running Rainmaker. Like I have listings on the market.
Right.
It's crazy. Which hasn't been the case for years. So
that's right. Pros, cons of the Rainmaker model. Why don't we just start? Well, actually, Isaac, since this is something that you are now kind of like transitioning back into, what are some of the like the immediate, I would say, like pains of entering that, like re-entering that phase? Because obviously, like when you're entering something like you experience a lot of pain like at the beginning. So, or maybe you're not, and why not, right? Like if you're not, like you understand the business maybe better now than you did before, obviously. So kind of walk me through the journey right now that you're going through and some of the
why do you hate it, Isaac? Come on, man. Why do you hate it?
Yeah. Yeah.
I do hate it. Now the reality is this, it has a lot of cons, and the cons are that I don't construct the life that I want on a day-to-day basis because I'm now subject to clients and their needs and their wants and their timetables, right? I'm very much used to when I'm done at 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock at night, I'm done. And on the weekends, I'm out playing baseball and doing riding quads and doing whatever. And now that I'm back in production, I'm like,
you gotta show house.
Oh man, like, hey guys, I have to show a house, or I have to. So I have a showing partner, thank God, but I still have to go on the listing. I still have to handle the like oh my goodness, this came up on the inspection report. Can we talk about it right now? I'm sitting with my wife for the first time today. Right? Like that's a thing that's really happening. So the cons are I'm in the business. And so if you could sum it up into one word, it's clients. Now, I don't dislike the individuals. It's the challenge of working with the clients, right? And you lack control on one side. On the other side, though, the thing that I'm finding as a pro is I have control over certain things. So a good example, the 2 listings that are coming to market that I'm listing, it's because I looked in the database. I'm like, you guys are not doing what I know works on converting this listing. I'm picking up the phone, right? I'm going to go out there and get it. So I have the control of production, right? Like I can convert, I can take that back into my hands. The problem is as soon as I convert, I'm like, oh man, I got a transaction. It's this weird little, like no joke, like this is going to sound stupid. It's going to make me sound like a really dumb person, but it's just who I am, the way that I think. I converted the lead and forgot that you have to do stuff. Yeah. I was like, oh yeah, like I have an appointment on Wednesday. Like what?
Yeah. No, it's reigns true that the income is the pro. The con is that you have to do the work to do the income. And I think the difference is like when you're building a business that's bigger than that with a different type of model, you're sometimes 2, 3, sometimes 4 degrees removed from income entering your pocket, essentially. When you're a Rainmaker model, you're only like a half a degree removed from income entering your pocket. So you deal directly with a client. You don't have to worry or teach someone how to gain more on their buyer broker agreement. You don't have to teach someone to actually sign a 6% listing. Like you're just going to get it. Whereas you have to also convince someone to do the work to want to go and earn the business. Whereas with you, you're just going to roll the dice and you're just going to go. Like you're just going to create the business. But that also means you have to do the business, which is the con. So Rainmaker model in that sense, it is also the quickest and it's the safest. Like it's the most secure of all the models, right? Which is the big pro. Let's say you're having a bad month. You could hit the phones tomorrow, generate a contract. You could generate a client, get a listing, put stuff in play, go show some houses if you had to, and generate a transaction tomorrow. And if you did want to outsource that, let's say you're good on income, you could generate the transaction and then hand it off, which is that like 1.5% removed of, I got it halfway there, but like, this is where I'm going to hand it off. So there is some freedom, like minor freedom. You're still now on the beck and call of everything that agent asks. Like you're going to still have to train them and coach them at the highest level because they need that.
Yeah, and you nailed it. Because now I have like this listing and I have another listing I'm going to take on Wednesday, a week from today. And this one is going to be the first one where I'm like, hey, listen, I'm going to go there, convert it, and you're doing all the work, right? It's the first one. So, and to your point, we're having a bad month, not like a bad month, like, oh man, we're going to lose money or anything.
Extra,
like, dude, it's July. We shouldn't be thin on this. Like I want to hire a new VA in the marketing department. And I'm like, well, if I just go pick up the phone, I got this person's next 3 months salary like that. You know what I mean? So I'm like, you know what, screw it. I'm just going to go do some transaction. 2 weeks ago, I just was like, let me jump in the database. And then we've got 2 escrows and a listing that's going live tomorrow, another listing, right? So to your point, you can look at the books and go, all right, I guess I got to go sell some real estate real quick. And then now it's getting to the point where it's like, okay, I realized that I forgot that you have to service the business once you convert it. So now I'm taking that next step of like, all right, I'll convert, you close and deal with all that. But to your point, I'm still very much on the hook for that agent now. Now me and that agent, and I have to succeed through them, which because of all my background in running an enterprise model, that's actually my best comfort zone is succeeding through other people. Which I think is one of the hardest parts for Rainmakers to make the next step is learning how to succeed through other people. Yeah. With the comfort level of it and then also the skill set.
And I think it sounds more like you're an enterprise model dipping into Rainmaker out of necessity or needs more than you are a true probably Rainmaker. Because like at the end of the day, you don't like selling real estate. So in essence, right off the gates, you're not a Rainmaker at its core because a Rainmaker model, you'd have to love to sell real, like you kind of have to like it a lot, because you're doing it. Like everything revolves through this person truly, right? Like, so if you're making that transition, so if there's a listener out there that's like, man, I hate selling real estate. Well, then you're kind of like an enterprise leader stuck in a Rainmaker body type thing. Like you're kind of stuck in this trap and you need to like exit it. And a true Rainmaker where the pros come into play. Cause like you're saying the pro is the con is I got to do this client. I got to service this deal. I got to do these things. But to a Rainmaker that's truly like in the business like that, they kind of like that piece. Their con is like, I don't want to do transactions. I don't want to do these showings, or, you know, I don't want to do some of the marketing around myself. Like there's pieces there that, you know, they have to deal with. But they like usually doing the transactions themselves to a certain degree, right? And so the income there is a pro. The big cons, if you really think about it in the Rainmaker space, is you have a ceiling. Like you just talked about it a little bit right there. You said, in order for me to hire this marketing person, I have to go do X, Y, Z, right? Like you can't allow your business to evolve to then hire the people. And so that's like where the exit is like, if you were exiting as an enterprise model, my conversation is not, I got to go do a transaction or 3 more than I already was. What it is I got to hire 3 more agents or 5 more agents or 10 more agents to generate more opportunities for my agents to perform. Or can I go get an extra 60 leads from Zillow this next month? Can I go get an extra 45 opportunities from my past client or my database? And then that creates revenue, then continues to scale me. Or even further, like in an expansion model, it's like, could I go launch a new location and start a new revenue stream or a new stream, or add an ancillary business to what I'm already doing and create more revenue in? As a Rainmaker model, the con is it always comes down to you selling 1 more listing or servicing 1 more buyer. And there's a threshold on your time as the leader. You can only sign so many listings. Your personal sphere is only so wide. So what ends up happening is you hit that plateau of like, this is what my revenue is going to be month after month, even if it's my best my best. And so what's cool about it is a Rainmaker model is very predictable. Like it's really, really predictable, which is great. What's terrible is if a Rainmaker model wants to go on vacation for an extended period of time, they can't. I don't know how they do it. Like I'd love to hear like their business will roller coaster effect right off the gate. Then on top of it, it's going to take a ramp up phase to get back into the business. So the pros for a Rainmaker model, at least, is that they're so heavily in the business all the time that it's really easy to ebb and flow through production. Whereas like that's their pro. A con is like they can't exit easily, right? But in other models, you can't just jump into the business and just throw a deal together. Like it's way harder. Like it takes pipeline and time to cultivate and build relationships again. How long has it been since you've called your past clients? If you're in an enterprise model, like that doesn't exist. You know, with Rainmaker, if you need to throw some deals together, you can make a couple calls, you know, reach out to a couple past clients and you probably find a deal.
Yeah, precisely.
That's true.
And that's what it was. It was jumping back in the database.
You want to go another deep dive into a couple more pros and cons of a Rainmaker model. In a Rainmaker model, you're not managing as many people. That's a huge pro, in my opinion. Like looking at the enterprise side of things back, you probably have a team of 3 to 5 agents that are showing agents or partners or listing support or whatever that is. And you might have a staff of 1 or 2, transaction coordinator and a marketer, or transaction coordinator, admin, something like that. That's nice when you don't have to manage. Like you're not a general manager, you're still in production, but you have a little bit of management on the side. Like that's the pro, right? But the con is you're wearing more hats when you're in a Rainmaker seat. Like you're still recruiting, you're still sales generating, you're still coaching, you're still training, right? So you don't have to manage people, but you have to do more jobs. So really you're balancing that. You have to decide, would I rather juggle more hats with simplified less people to juggle them with? Or would you rather manage an immensely more amount of people but have way less hats you have to put on, right? Like me as a leader now, I'm not doing 18 different jobs. Like if I go jump in a job, I'm dialed in one bucket. I'm going to improve that bucket. But I'm managing 12 other people doing their jobs. And that's a whole different, box, right? So that's a big pro con conversation for Rainmakers all the time is Are you a people manager? Are you good at that? Are you capable of doing that at a high level? That's where that decision making happens on, do I want to be an enterprise model? Do I want to exit production? If you're not good at managing people or leading staffed positions, you have to hire that person if you ever want to make that leap. You can't go into the enterprise model, or you better be good at it yourself and do it yourself.
So question for you, right? This is something that I think anyone who is either in the Rainmaker model right now or is in some sort of like individual / like small SEAL team, but like they want to get to like that next level. They want to scale it up. How does someone know whether or not they're good at leading and managing people?
I think they have to do a time audit a little bit and figure out what they do the most amount of time doing. And like they have to self-reflect and actually figure out what they enjoy doing. The easiest one to understand if they're a good fit for that, do they build process and hand it off, or do they end up just doing it themselves? This is the most, like outside of transaction coordination, like that one is, if you've hired that role, that's like probably the easiest one to see. But outside of TC work, do you create a process and then teach to that process or follow that process, document that process? Or do you typically just say, oh no, I know how to do it, I'm just going to do it myself? If you're in that bucket of decision making, that's how you know. Like for me, when I was early on building a team, it's like, no, I don't want to do all this stuff. I'd rather build out a training on how to do it and then teach someone how to do it real quick and then never have to do it again. Like that was my vision of scale out. And if you don't think that way, you're probably not trained and ready to go to that type of model yet. Like you would have to change who you are in an essence to get to that level, or have to find a business partner that is good at that stuff, or hire someone that's a COO integrator type that can do those tasks, because you're not a leader that's built for that. And you have to self-reflect early on and say, okay, I'm not a manager of people. Actually, I don't like staff members at all. Like I'd prefer not to talk to them whatsoever. You probably should know that, as you get into that spot.
Yeah. And the thing I'll add to that too is, and it actually hinted right at it, is the people that I notice and why it's easy for me to go into the enterprise model really quickly, right? Like the business is so new, I have to Rainmake every once in a while, but it really is an enterprise in the making. And it's this: do you think formulaic? Like, are you a formulaic thinker? Do you think if this happens, then this should happen and here should be the end result? Because if you think like that, then you can see the process, right? There's so many top producers you run into and they're like, I don't know how I did it. I couldn't teach somebody how to do it. They have a really hard time relaying that information over to other people and transferring that knowledge. Right. And a lot of times I think it's, and here's the fallacy that I've seen a lot with Rainmakers. They think if you spend enough time with me by osmosis, you will learn how to do what I do the way that I do it. And the truth is, no, it's not that, because people are not necessarily that observant and keen on, you said this first and this second and this third, and that was the logical conclusion. They go and take all the words you said, like in a listing presentation, for example. If you don't have a formula so that when followed, you get the same results every single time and it's predictable, consistent, reliable results. If you don't have that, and you think by having somebody sit there and watch you do 30 listing appointments this year, somehow they're going to follow that exact thing. No, what they're going to sound like is a cut up reel of all the things you say, and they're just going to spew it at the wrong times. They're not going to read the person correctly. So for example, listings is the best way. Is like, if you have the ability to look back and go, well, I know I've been winging it, but there's something that's working here. Let me identify the formulaic approach to doing this, right? Like I teach something called the 5-point pitch, and it's not the best listing presentation you've ever seen in your entire life, but it's duplicatable and it's predictable and it's reliable. So if you can think in a formulaic way, then be able to transfer that to other people. And then the other piece is hold them accountable without making them feel like crap when they fail. That's the recipe that I've seen for leadership. So like Keith does a really good job at creating the formula for people to succeed. And then, I mean, anybody who's watching this, if you've never seen Keith with a spreadsheet and his ability to like hold and measure results, Like, that's why he's successful. I don't even have to step foot inside of his business day to day to know. He sees things in a formulaic pattern. He knows how to build those things out. He knows how to pass them on to others and track and help people stay accountable to the results that should come from that formula, right? 2 + 2 should equal 4. Math teachers are not very busy because there's only one way to get that answer, right? And so if you do the formula the right way, you should get the answer. And so rather than having to read an entire book report, they just go correct, 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 right? And so that's really what I've seen the best operators do. And so if you feel like, hey, I'm never going to be capable of that, or I'm not interested in doing that, yeah, you're going to run into some challenges as a Rainmaker trying to transition.
I think there's something to be said about income too. Like if income is your biggest motivator, like if you're doing real estate and you're building a team because you want to make the most amount of money, okay, like if that's your why, and it's completely fine to have a why. Like real estate can be a very profitable business. You can make a ton of money. Also, if you like to be in control and you like to manage everything and be a part of all that stuff, if those two things are like who you are and also your why, you need to stay in the Rainmaker model. In fact, the Rainmaker model is an awesome spot to be. You maintain the highest level of control while still leveraging some of your time away, very little, but some, and you can make the max amount of money per time usage and stress usage of your life, right? So if you're a good Rainmaker model, like outside of these high luxury marketplaces like California and certain boxes like that, there is legitimate line of sight to $500 to $1 million in net profitability a year. Net profit. So if you're a team leader on here and you run a big ass team and you make $185,000 a year and you're like, what the hell is this? Like, what am I doing? And that's what you tell yourself you make. And in reality, if you looked at your books and the debt you went into and what you leveraged and what you invested in, is that actually what you profit, or is that just what you paid yourself while you went deeper into debt? So beyond that piece, as a Rainmaker, you legitimately can make $500,000 to $1 million net income a year because you can do a wide array of volume. You make 100% of the commission, and then the ones you hand off, you still get 50% with limited to no work. And you can do 100 transactions a year. Like you legitimately can do that 100 to 150 range. That's what, like 10 to 15 transactions a month. And let's say 7 to 8 of those might be you. You know, you do 5 or 6 listings or 4 or 5 listings. You do a couple high dollar buyers, and then you split the remaining deals that are like maybe 4 to 6. And so that quality of life lets you fully control your business and maximize your profitability inside that bucket because you don't have a lot of overhead, you don't have a lot of staff, and you're making the max amount of margins from your company. Now, that's a huge pro. So if you love revenue, and the difference is that's the max you're going to make. Like that's the biggest thing that I'd caution people. You'll never make beyond the 500K to $1 million. You might have a great year one year, but also if the market shifts on you, you know, it's volatile, right? So like it's going to downsize with you the same way, but you're at less risk. You're controlling your fate at all times. So that's my biggest thing is if you love that quality of life of like predictable days, predictable income, you're in full control of your assets and you run a good profession, stay there. Because to make the leap out of Rainmaker and to go a different route is telling yourself, I'm taking a pay cut for who knows how long. Like you have to tell yourself that in hopes of a bigger vision and a bigger why, I'm going to make less money for a long time.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's something that a lot of people don't really like. I know I didn't understand it, right? When I started building my enterprise model, I made so much money as a solo agent. It was sick.
Yeah.
Like it was disgusting. And that's one of the pros that I wrote down was just like the profitability on the Rainmaker model is huge. And to your point, the control, right? These are all things that I wrote down. So I agree with everything that you just said. Like you have way more control of the customer relationships as well, which is fantastic. You know, it can be. And one of the things I remember, this was during like the year that I really started to pivot into building my team. I went in and I went in on this listing appointment, and when I got there, I realized, dude, this listing is going to require so much work. This is going to be like the nightmare of all nightmares. I'm charging 7% on this one. And I went in there, I got it at 7, and it has $1.5 million listing. So it's beefy commission check. And when I walked out of there, I was super proud of myself. I was like patting myself on the back. And then I kind of had this thought. I was like, how am I ever going to train anyone to do what I just did? Like, there's no way, like I don't know that like there are certain skills or certain things that are just non-transferable. And so
that's awesome. When you say
at least in my opinion,
that's awesome when you say that. It's true. 100% true.
Yeah. Right. And so like that would be one of the cons, right? Is like, you have control over the relationships, which is a pro. However, because of that control, there are certain things that are going to be out of your control and not necessarily skills that are transferable at a certain point. And so because of that, profit will go down because that guy will charge 6 or probably honestly 5, right? Like that same listing. So there we're taking a 2-point hit on our, on our bottom line.
Now, the big thing is in Rainmaker though, because you have less agents that work closely with you, they're the best chance of becoming you. Of all of the other models, you have your best chance of training that, that dog in somebody, if you will, and pulling that out of them is because you only have 2 or 3 people that you're influencing on an everyday, walk. And you become one of their 5 closest people that they're with. Like, what they talk about. It's like, hey, you become like the 5 people you surround yourself with. When you're an agent on a Rainmaker team, the likelihood of you becoming a top performing agent is actually great. Like in all reality,
absolutely.
If I was to give somebody the best advice to navigate the real estate space from day one, like as a brand new agent, and it's crazy I'm even saying this because I'm basically saying don't join my team right away, right? If you wanted to do it, you would join a Rainmaker team for 6 months. 6 months. You would digest as a sponge anything and everything, like go out of one of the best performers in the marketplace. Follow them on their hit, go to every listing appointment, do every open house with them, watch the way they negotiate, watch the way they conversate, everything, mirror them, be like them. Have you ever watched the TV show Suits? You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Where the main character is literally on the hip.
Great show.
Right? He's on the hip.
Spectre.
Yeah.
Mike's on Harvey's. Yeah.
A little piece of him by being that close. Now, if he went and joined a firm and just was in like the bullpen of people, like you're going to learn, but like it's organic and it's over time. But if you go like rent to someone, you're going to be in the weeds. And that's what a Rainmaker provides to agents. It's phenomenal. Now, the key is that agent will leave you as a Rainmaker, because they can't take 50-50 splits or less for their entire career. Like they just can't. They became as good as you. They're gone. They're going to leave you. Like that's the whole point. So in my opinion, a great agent that wants to start out from day one and become the best, mirror from someone for 6 months, leave, and then go join a team that knows how to leverage like everything, like my team, and then do all of the leads and do all the prospecting at the highest level and just rack it in. Because now you can offset all of that cost as a third-party cost. You could do 60 transactions a year leveraging a team and make the max amount of money you could at leverage time. And so that would be the ultimate for a new agent to come into play. And you don't see it very often, right? Like you don't. And what ends up happening is someone joins a Rainmaker team and then they want to mirror that agent in that box and become a Rainmaker too. And then they get caught in a similar trap in this bucket, which brings me to another massive con of being a Rainmaker. If you only have 4 agents on your Rainmaker team and one of them leaves, what percent of your business did you just lose? 25%. And how much invested time did you spend with that one person you coached and trained? Like you literally, like there's no bigger gut punch than being a Rainmaker team of 4 or 5 agents. And one of them says, hey, thank you for everything. You're the best. You'll always be my friend, but I'm going to go make 100% commission now because I'm tired of taking 40% of the commission. And I can tread my own way, because to the agent that's doing that, they only need to do 1 deal generated from their own efforts versus doing 2, maybe 2.5 deals generated from a team leader. Like it's a big difference, right? And so time-wise, it's way less hassle, way less clients, way less stress. But like as a team leader, that's why I could never do the Rainmaker model, is the security of scale was it wasn't there. Like if I lose one agent, I'm struggling. Like that whole next quarter is going to be tough right away. It's a big deal.
So this actually is a question that pops to mind when we're talking about that, right? What are some possible solutions? Because here's the thing, right? Like in the enterprise model, you're continually hiring your current agent's replacement, right? You are every new hire crew that comes in, every new licensee or new monthly onboarding group, they're very obviously the replacements for the bottom third and or the people that choose to leave, right? Because you're always replacing your worst people. Now, on a Rainmaker model, you're investing, you're pouring, and there are certain things that come up. There are another con that we haven't really discussed yet, Keith, is not only are you susceptible to losing 25% of your business at any given time, but you're also susceptible to the individuals that see that and then try to use that to their advantage by like negotiating with you, getting this, ego. Oh, well, you can't do it without me sort of attitude. And it's at a certain point, I think every Rainmaker goes through it. I know that I did when I was going multiple times, by the way, people trying to negotiate their splits with me, and it sucked. And it wasn't until I really took recruiting seriously and really switched models that it no longer was an issue. So is this just a permanent issue of this model, or are there solutions that we can think of that maybe don't eliminate it 100%, but make it less likely that you fall victim to that?
There's a great solution, and it does work, but it's kind of a dick move as a leader. And I've seen it happen before. For me, I define myself as a leader by I want to elevate someone to a whole nother level. Like I want to make them a better person than when they met me. Like when they met me, they were a certain level. And then after my, just pouring on their life, they are now this person. And they could look back and be like, man, Keith took me from level A to level B, like no doubt in my mind. If you want to be the best business builder of a Rainmaker model, like if you want that dialed in, then you don't ever grow someone bigger than the box you put them in. What I mean by that, you hire agents specific to certain tasks. You never cross-train them on any other tasks outside that bucket. You pigeonhole them into only learning a certain type of business. So if I was truly running a Rainmaker model, and again, it's messed up, but like people do this and they have success because an agent won't leave you if they're terrified about all the other things about a business, right? So if you give an agent, say, hey, Mr. Agent, you're going to be a buyer's agent. You don't lead generate. You're only going to you're going to only be a showing agent. So I'm going to teach you how to show houses, talk to clients, and how to convert the clients to write an offer, but you're not going to write the offer. I'm going to have my transaction coordinator do that piece. And you're not going to prospect. That's my job. And it's my past clients. And I have a VA to help me do that. You are literally only going to show houses. If that agent comes to you and say, hey, you couldn't do this without me, I need a higher split, I'll be like, I'd just hire another showing agent. Like I'm not worried about it. Like that's easy. Plus that agent won't come to you and position that way because they're terrified. They don't know how to generate business on their own. They know how to show houses. That's a whole different story. And so what ends up happening is people pigeonholed like that, they stay in that role for a long time because they're terrified. You keep them in fear. In fact, there's another model, which is like that Keller Williams model that has been known for a while. That's like an 8 to 12 agent. It's that expansion model where it's like a bunch of small unit teams. And so what ends up happening is for the longest time, I was on a KW model like this, where you couldn't do listings and you would only be able to do buy sides and you had to, and everything was done. Like I didn't have any transaction. Like I wrote a contract and I let it go. Like I didn't even talk to my clients again after that. So I had no database path client, like nothing. It was sell, handoff, done. I didn't even go to the Benzer inspection. Like, no, I didn't do with anything. Like literally never asked for repairs, never handled. I just hoped that my TC department could close my deal so I could get paid. Like that's how hands off it was. That created fear in my business because I couldn't look and say like, oh shoot, if I wanted to do this on my own, I'd have to learn all of that stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's a positive and a negative in the sense of you will keep people longer, you will process out roles a little bit better, but you won't grow people whatsoever. But you also risk resentment, and agents start to look at you as like, hey, you haven't helped me grow. And they'll be frustrated with the fact like they'll try and learn, and you're like, no, you're just my showing agent, you're just my buyer agent. And as soon as you let them transition to that role as a leader, you have to think, okay, their days are numbered. I need to find their replacement now because they're already starting to learn other things that I wasn't prepared for them to learn yet. They will only be with me X amount of time. Happens every time. Mm-hmm. So as soon as you teach them those other things and they start to learn how to become a full agent, it's actually bad. And so with the enterprise model, what I've always liked is I can teach them to be a full agent day one and actually help them grow because I'm already expecting them to leave quickly. Like it's not even a thought. I know you will leave. That's okay. I'm going to grow you as a person. I'm going to grow you as an agent. And there's going to be plenty more agents that come that need me to help them grow and scale and build just the same.
This actually kind of like leads nicely into one of my questions for the two of you, because there is a type of almost like a hybrid model where I wouldn't necessarily say it's Rainmaker / enterprise, but let me describe the model. Maybe there's a different model name for this, where I like to call it the God and Minion model. Okay. That's the way that I kind of think about it, where you've got the guy he's the face. And this is very popular in the San Francisco Bay Area, by the way. He's the face of the organization. He's on all the billboards, or she is on all the billboards. But they've got this really large team. Okay. Now the team is very much structured in a Rainmaker model where the team leader is definitely going on most or all of the listing appointments, some of the buyer appointments, but the team members are also allowed to do their own business. So it's kind of like a hybrid of the two. And the Rainmaker, and by the way, like these teams can be like dozens of agents. The thing is though, is like one of the biggest issues that I see with this is most of the minions don't do transactions. They're like
staff.
No, they're just non-productive agents.
Yeah. So that just sounds to me like a Rainmaker model with extra baggage weight that you shouldn't have on a platform that's not built to train them to do production. That's a Rainmaker model. If you as the leader, if the business flows through one person's name, identity, or past client list or database of any sort, you could still have leads on the side, like you're one way out, but you're still a Rainmaker model until, in my opinion, will always be a Rainmaker model until you get out of the business. Like you would have to not be selling anymore and handing stuff off to people for you to truly graduate out of the Rainmaker model. Yeah. Like that's kind of that deviation, right? If you still sell real estate, then you're still evolved enough to where the business won't work without you. Like it won't survive.
Yeah. Exactly. It would completely crumble.
Then it's Rainmaker.
Like
you can get into that expansion model or that standard team model, which is like what you're describing is kind of a hybrid, which is that route to enterprise. That would mean you're still getting leads sent to you from your database, but you're sending all of them out. Like that's the hybrid. Is like, I don't do production unless it's friends and family, one-offs, very few, couple deals a month max. That's your transitional phase. But like every deal I get from somebody, like referrals, I'm not prospecting anymore. It's just database entry. And like, I'm handing all of that stuff off. Now you're moving into, you're growing an enterprise team. You're growing a standard team. You're just not there yet. You're not fully out of production. And until you have everything systemized, and the way that I look at it, you're not to enterprise until you could leave for 6 months and your business grows or stays the same.
Yeah.
If it won't stay the same or grow and you're gone, you're like in the Maldives for 6 months. If it doesn't stay the same or grow, you're truly not an enterprise model yet. You're on the road to get there. You're not at a place of viability. You're scaling out of whatever box you're in prior to. So the Rainmaker model, that's one of the other big cons. You can't sell that asset. You can't leave.
No, you can't
exit that business. Yep. It dies without you. And that's really that defining piece of what the Rainmaker model is. Like, they need you. You are it.
Yeah. that is one of the cons that I had here written on my list is not saleable.
Yes.
And, when you evaluate a business, it's usually, 5x, 3 to 5x EBITDA. But the problem is that if you're not in the business, EBITDA would be 0.
Yeah.
Right. So then it's like,
you're the asset. You can sell an asset that it'd be like saying, hey, I run this ice cream truck. I have an ice cream truck. That's what I do. I sell ice cream, and I'm going to sell my ice cream truck business. I'll give you my routes. I'll tell you where I'm going to go. But hey, the ice cream truck also serves as my personal vehicle. So I can't give you the ice cream truck, but I'll tell you how I do my business, and I'll sell it at 3 times what I currently make using my ice cream truck. Like the ice cream truck is the business. Like that's the asset. Like that's the vehicle that's doing everything. So if you remove the vehicle, you can't sell the business. Like then you're just selling a how-to guide. So if you sell your book of business with a how-to guide of you should call these people, you're really just selling leads. Like congrats, I can go online and prospect leads. So that's the biggest thing that people always fall into.
I was just going to say the exact same thing. I'm like, we've done that before, and literally it boils down to like, all right, what's the price
literally
per lead?
What it is.
Like, and that's the way we say, like, hey, your database, like these ones, I'll pay you $4 per contact record. This one, I'll pay you 75 cents per contact record. Right?
Interesting.
I mean, we're working on buying a plumbing business right now in my construction company. And it really comes down to an asset purchase, right? Because like without you, dude, like we're just buying your tools, right? Bro. And like your brand doesn't mean anything. Your people can't
Rainmaker
run
models
without
don't
you.
have tools. They don't have systems. They don't have process. So what do they have to sell?
Exactly.
They have their brain because they've been doing everything themselves. If you don't have,
which goes back to that formulaic thing, right? Like, hey, you want to get out of production, you better figure out a formula to pass on. And so if you're 24 months out from deciding you want to sell something, okay, cool. Here's your steps. Make sure you understand everything, create a formula for it, hand it off to other people, get your hands off the business. And that's going to establish the EBITDA that's really reliable and sellable. Because you see it.
If you can leave for 6 months and the business stays the same or grows, you have a sellable asset. You're in the enterprise model officially. Now it's just, you're probably not making money. Now it's all tight. You got a bunch of expenses, and now welcome to our world half the time, right? So then you're going to scale it to home.
Yeah. And one of the things, one thing I'll point out, and I know it's slightly off topic, but it might be helpful for a Rainmaker. He's like, dude, I like it. I'm 32. I'm not planning on selling anything anytime soon. Keith, I know this is an area of expertise for you, is, okay, do I necessarily have to do enterprise to continue to make money? Or like, at what point can I start dabbling in ancillaries?
Yeah.
Right? Because, and here's where this comes from. I got into a healthy debate with a friend of mine recently. We'll call it that. And they're basically saying like, if you don't get out of production, there's no way for you to retire. So you better go to revenue share. And I love revenue share, by the way, right? Yeah. Cloud-based brokerages, all that fun stuff. And I was like, I think you're thinking just too narrowly that it's either sell real estate for life, build a revenue share, or build a team. Well, ancillaries are also another answer. I have mortgage, I have construction, we're working on other things.
So I love that because I'm a big ancillary guy. Like, it's a big believer. I'm like, what I believe a ton in it. Now, if you're going to follow yourself in the same trap as the Rainmaker, though, if your ancillary business, whatever that may be, 100% relies on your production as a Rainmaker model team leader and coach, then it dies alongside you just the same as your team did. Because if your production goes, then the mortgage company's production goes, because everything that the mortgage company was doing is based on that. So it's the same concept of you're just building a bigger Rainmaker model and adding more legs of revenue against the Rainmaker model. So that's the caution thing there. However, you can extend your income levels with the Rainmaker model, which is great. So the only thing that you can do as a Rainmaker model in that seat to extend ancillary, those other pieces, to give yourself a retirement or an exit plan, is you have to be building assets that are generating revenue, creating opportunity or income without the need for the core business. Absolutely key. So my best advice, honestly, for a Rainmaker model, if they like you just described, 32-year-old person, that is trying to sell real estate at a high level, making cash, right? Like we talked about it. They might be making $500,000 to $1 million a year, like legit making good money. And they're like, I don't want to take this step back. Like why do I have to get into revenue share? Like I might not want to sell forever. My advice is put your money that you're generating into a business, ancillary, or investment that will generate revenue that does not require your existing business to do. So if I were to go back and reset and redo, I would have said, Keith, use your skills at the absolute highest level and be like a Ryan Serhant and make a shit ton of money and build a sellable asset that's bigger and beyond you and make that type of revenue stream from that. But what I would have done is I would have taken all my income when I was single and didn't have kids and had nothing to do but blow money on random stupid stuff. And I would have put it all into investments, and I would have stayed in that bucket for 5, 6, 7 years because I would have been able to generate a real estate portfolio of naturally reoccurring revenue every single month where it didn't matter if I sold a house or not. When you're in the Rainmaker model, you have the ability and the free income to do that. When you graduate into an enterprise and go down that route, your money is gone. It's invested in your business. So the only way you can bring that money back is if you could take it back out of your business when it becomes profitable one day. And that's the trouble is people jump in. Like, so that was my best advice on one of our previous calls was like, don't rush out of the business so fast. Like you can create some renewable income quicker, right? So now when you build the enterprise model, you're just investing your time and your profitability into an asset that doesn't require you to run. It's the same thing. You're just exiting your other job much quicker in that same light. So you definitely don't need to do revenue share to be able to build those things, right? Because revenue share has a finite fall off time too. People will leave the business, people will exit, people will shift. People that think revenue share is going to last forever is also crazy because 33% of the industry leaves every single year. So let's be honest, it's a job that you'll have to continue to do forever, just the same as anything else. Your paydays might just be bigger at the beginning and you don't see the fall off as quickly. But trust me, there's plenty of people at certain revenue sharing companies that are seeing the pain point of stopping the snowball that they created down the stretch. So ancillary matters, investments matter for Rainmaker as long as they don't 100% rely on the core business to generate the revenue.
Yeah. And actually it's funny that you say that because one of my big things for mortgage was, okay, I don't want to start mortgage that's dependent on my team and that I generate. So of the 32 transactions or something like that we've done in the last 30 days or something on the mortgage side, I think 5 are from the team. The rest are from other relationships because my mortgage partner's been in mortgage for years. So I'm like, cool, that's great. If my team just dissolves tomorrow, we're still
and
cranking
you own a company now
that
does that. Like that's the key. Like that's an asset that's not reliant on the core business. So it becomes a sellable asset. It has process, it has systems. And if you left for 6 months, does it stay the same? Does it grow? You now have a model that makes sense. You're out of the walk.
Yeah.
I think the best way to kind of like put a bow on this episode, and because we're running up on time here, is, Isaac, I am shocked and also at the same time not the least bit surprised that you got into that that healthy debate with that individual, and that owning and investing in real estate never came up in the like it sounds like it maybe never came up in the conversation, because it's like the only way to retire is if I keep selling real estate or rev share. It's like you didn't even think for a second that like investing in real estate is a retirement strategy.
Dude, that's 100% where I went with it. And as a matter of fact, so what happened, dude, no joke, what happened is someone commented on my YouTube video. I have a YouTube video. Someone commented and they were talking about rev share and all this. And this is the company that pays out a lot of rev share. And I was like, I messaged back. And then my buddy who I was with when I was messaging back on that comment was like, well, he's got a point. And I'm like, no, he doesn't. Like, dude, you should be buying real estate. You should be, right? Like all these other things. And what's funny is my rev share, Danny, you know this, Keith, I think we've talked about it before too. Like, I'm like, dude, my rev share, every dollar from rev share is going into real estate. Not my real estate business, but buying real estate assets. Like, I don't need the rev share money. I make the money the other ways. So the rev share money, I don't need it to pay bills. I need it because I like it. But that's all going to real estate assets. 100%, because I don't know when the drain is going to be unplugged from that. And so I'm like, cool, let me just buy as much real estate, because I'm basically turning money into
protect your asset. Real estate has been the longest standing hard asset of growth ever in our country's history, right? Like it's the safest, form of investing according to histories over time. Even with the crash, like the crash happened and gone, and we're back higher than what we were when the crash happened. So it stands the test of time as long as you stay in it long enough. That's how you maintain, assets, and it's cash flowing all the way through that. Like it's a great investment strategy. So my advice, if you are a Rainmaker, don't necessarily run away just quick. Like grass is not greener on the other side. It's greener where you water it. Like that's so key. And then take those assets and invest in something that's going to give you a line of sight. Like the most boring stuff is the stuff that makes the people that are rich the richest. Like it's the boringest of stuff. People build their wealth off of boring assets.
Could not agree more. And this was a fun episode, guys. I think that we covered a lot of things here, a lot of the different pros and cons of the Rainmaker model. And I to your point, Keith, we're covering all of the different models, hopefully with a very objective lens, right? Like we all have different backgrounds, meaning the three of us all have different backgrounds. We all understand that like different people have different skill sets, and different skill sets are going to naturally gravitate towards different models. And there's no best model, right? Because if you are not a great delegator, if you are not great at creating SOPs and or hiring someone that can create those SOPs and do, then you shouldn't do the enterprise model. Like it's just not a good idea. And if you're not willing to take a step back in terms, like a heavy step back on your, personal income for several years while you're reinvesting a lot of that capital back into the business to scale the enterprise, then you shouldn't do it. So there's so many reasons not to do that. And so I hope that this came off as an objective, pros versus cons of Rainmaker. And who knows, maybe someone who's listening to this right now, hopefully there's a Rainmaker right now who's thinking about going enterprise that maybe thinks twice, right? Because like, that's kind of the point, right? Is that it might not be for you, and that's okay. Because the time that you spend and the money that you spend investing into growing an enterprise model, you can very easily take that time and money and invest it into other things that will probably make you just as wealthy and just as happy, right? So I think that's kind of the punchline.
Cool. I love it.
Sweet. Love it, guys.
Appreciate it.
Sweet.